Oh, hello. This one's a bit of a request, but I'm going to talk about the album cover, front and back, of Fleetwood Mac's Mystery to Me, which is my favorite album cover of all time for many reasons, and I'm sure you can see some of them already. You may not be familiar with this record because this is I guess, classic Fleetwood Mac. Like people would say, this is pre self titled, pre rumors. Christine McVie was already in the band, but you didn't have Lindsey Buckingham yet. You didn't have Stevie Nicks yet. So this is kind of back in the Bob Welch era. He was the primary songwriter. I'd say Bob and and Christine. Did I say Chrissy or Christine? Christine was really coming into her own around this time as a really good songwriter. I would say the one before this, Penguin, was where she started really showing what she could do. Penguin's underrated record, and I guess this is too. Though I think it is somewhat more well regarded. But let's get into it. I call this guy a gorilla. I don't know if he's technically a gorilla. He kind of looks like a gorilla. But, I could just say that one of the things I love is this gorilla. But that would be it's not specific enough. There are things I love about the gorilla. So let's get into it. Let's get, like, a little more granular. Okay, first of all, this gorilla, if you'll notice, it's an image that's simultaneously like absurd, right, but also very melancholy, right? Because you have the infinite sea back here. You have our gorilla friend, and he's like staring off in the horizon, like contemplatively, and as you can see, he's weeping a little bit, and you got this puddle down here, and is it drool? Is it tears? Is it cake innards? It's kind of hard to say. And that kind of multifaceted, like what you're gonna see here is there's a lot of duality on this cover and a lot of implied meaning. Like in terms of literal meaning, there isn't much, but in terms of implied meaning, what we can infer from this image and from comparing it to the image on the back, and as you can see, it is really all one master image. There's a lot that we can read into about this gorilla and this man and their kind of relationship, right? What's the scenario? So number one, I'm gonna put the juxtaposition of the ridiculous and the melancholy. That's number one. Number two, there's a lot of surreality here, obviously, but my favorite example is you can see down here all of these feet. These are like normal animal feet, but then this one is just inexplicably, this is just a human hand, right? And I believe the artist did that. I don't know what they were trying to symbolize, but I think they did it because it was necessary for the idea. They came up with this concept of this gorilla, munching down on a nice sponge cake, and they were to facilitate that. They can shape the gorilla however they wish, right? And that's like the power of imagination. I mean, I know that as a person who likes doing creative stuff, I had a real kind of revelation where, a long time ago, like back in high school, where I was just like, wait, when I'm writing a story, I can do whatever I want. I don't have to follow anyone's rules except mine. And once you learn that, that there isn't a set guideline for stuff like this, that if you want to give the gorilla one human hand, you give it one human hand. If it fits your intent, you know. I find that really inspirational. Um, Also, we can see on the back here. Okay, so that's number two, gorilla's human hand, and what that implies, both for the piece of art and the artist's mentality. Okay, so then you look on the back, right, and you can see there's more shenanigans here going on with the hands and arms, because This looks like a very old man, but he has arms that look very young, right? You have like this very wrinkled skin and then this much younger looking skin here. And I think once again that's about duality. So that's going to be my number 3 reason for loving this piece of art so much is the duality inherent in like so many facets of this painting. And so we got to think about, what, what does this imply? Why did he draw it like this? And what I can infer, right, is that this younger hand, one is gesturing to the gorilla, trying to explain something important, and the other is resting on the books, right? And the books are very important. And that's another example of duality because this guy clearly treasures these books. They're clearly very important to him. They're clearly, like a source of knowledge to him and potentially inspiration as well. But as you can see, the gorilla doesn't view it that way. The gorilla eats books, right? The gorilla eats everything, right? So you can kind of infer from this that this man is perhaps trying to communicate the value of these books to this gorilla, right? And this is a very realistic relationship in a lot of ways because I have a dog, and I feel like sometimes we communicate very effectively, but sometimes there's like that species divide where she'll just do some weird shit and I'll be like, I'll never understand why you're doing that. Because at the end of the day, though I feel like I understand a lot of things about you and you understand a lot of things about me, at the end of the day, you're a different species and we can't communicate in a traditional way, you know? So this is kind of like a normal animal human relationship. I mean, my dog's eating books, so this guy is almost like, the way I read it is that he's trying to explain the value of literature to this gorilla, right? He's trying to say, no, this is more than just food, it's more than just an object. It contains importance. There's stuff in here that's intangible, but it's very significant to me and to people like me. And that might be why the gorilla is weeping, because he's realizing, what he's done by destroying this book, that he's destroying knowledge, he's destroying inspiration, he's destroying something that's important to this man without even knowing it. Because you can see, I mean, he's like gorging on the book, on the cake. He's very consumptive, right? And he's consuming without thinking, right? And that's something that we do as a species. I mean, we're constantly consuming without thinking. That's why the planet is in the state that it's in, right? So this man is kind of preaching caution and kind of being like, think before you eat. you know I mean, that resonates with me. If I'd thought more before I ate half the things I ate, I would be a healthier person today. But I'm doing better, and so is this gorilla. I think this gorilla is at a moment where it's kind of having a revelation and kind of being like, oh, instead of mindlessly consuming all of this, maybe I should try to be a little more self-aware. Maybe I should try to understand, my impact on the world. You know. So what's that? Reason number 4. Reason number 5 is this little penguin guy. Uh, for a couple different reasons. I love penguins, so that can just be reason number 5. I love penguins. But reason number 6 is that it provides this connective tissue, right? Because I'm a big fan of continuity, like between songs, between albums. I like when artists make their own little universe, you know. And as you might or might not know, the previous Fleetwood Mac record was called Penguin, and it had a penguin on the cover. Now, I don't think it was this penguin. That penguin looked a little different to me. It looked like they might have been going for like a rock hopper penguin because it had like hairs coming out like this, or maybe like an emperor penguin. And I think this one is like in a in a in a like a Adele, an Adeline penguin. I don't know. I don't know. Let's see.
Any more names as well, so make sure to stay tuned and consider subscribing for more learning.
All right.
How do you say it?
How do you say
Adelie Penguin.
Adelie.
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 Adelie. Adelie Penguin. Pretty straightforward once you know. Adelie Penguin. And
okay, Adelie. It's an Adelie penguin. Yeah, that's what I think this is. But I don't have any proof. Okay, so that's like reason number 6 is I like the cohesion. I like that this is calling back to the band's previous album and just kind of being like, hey, we keep having lineup changes, but we're always going to be the same band. We're always going to love penguins. And let's get a little more surface level because for number 7, I just love this packaging. Just in and of itself, it's very inventive. You don't see a lot of bands doing this. I mean, they're certainly not the only one, but that it's a cohesive image, front and back, right? I like that, and I think that lends a lot of uniqueness to the art design of the record. I also don't like it, though, and we can start a separate list for things I don't like about this album cover, because even though it's cool that it's one image, I can't make it a flat, cohesive image, right, without fucking up the spine of the record. So I'm gonna try to get this as like a poster or something. But in the meantime, I can't fully appreciate this art, because of the form factor, right? And so part of that too is I think what the art is trying to show, what it's trying to represent, is like this moment of communication between this man and this gorilla, right? But I can never truly visualize that moment. I can't make that moment happen because if I could open this flat, right, I could see them right there. They're locking eyes. They're staring at each other. They're communicating with each other in that kind of nonverbal human animal sort of way, right? But you know, it can never be. So I just have to kind of imagine it. I got to see it in my mind's eye, you know. Um, what else? Number 8. I think we're on number 8, right? This cake looks delicious. I think. I mean, it's clearly a sponge cake. I don't have sponge cake very often, but when I have, I'm like, this is a nice kind of cake. It's nice. It's got a nice texture. This frosting looks very delicious. It's got some, I believe, like some jam in the middle. I think that's jam. It could also be a syrup of some kind. And then you've got like these jelly blobs on top, which look especially delicious. Like these, like they look like something that should be like floating in some milk tea or something. They look really good. So I'm a big fan of that. And I want to eat the cake. And that's number 2 on the reasons I don't like the album list, because I can't eat the cake, and that's a problem for me. Um, but then let's see, number 9. I like that they put the names up here, but in an unobtrusive kind of way. The names are here for the sake of convenience, but it's not interfering with the art. They were clearly very respectful of the art and the artist when they were designing this package. And then let's see, number 10. Number 10, I like it because I think the image interlaces with, like the title of the record in an interesting way. Because your first reaction when you see this, right, is what the fuck is that? That's a Fleetwood Mac album. Why is that gorilla on the cover? And then you listen to it and you're like, this music sounds nothing like this album cover. This is not what I pictured at all when I saw this image. And I think that's the point, right? Because this record is called Mystery to Me, right? So it's supposed to be mysterious. It's not supposed to make literal sense. This gorilla is supposed to be out of place and supposed to be incongruous with the music. And that all feeds into the record's central concept, you know? So it's a great cohesion between album title and album image, which I think is essential for a truly successful album cover. And in conclusion, it's on It's on blue vinyl right there. So that's nice. 20 subscriber special. Working on it. It'll be here soon. Get hype.